Welcome back to tunjitalks, the home of I Have a First. Right, so today we are going to be talking about discrimination in the workplace, specifically in the UK. Earlier this year, there was a show on BBC iPlayer called We Are Black and British. It's a great show. It explored like a number of issues in the black community, discrimination in the workplace, relationships, schooling, education, all of that sort of stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, go and check it out on BBC iPlayer. So let's talk about the show. So the show, 6 strangers come together and they spend like 9 days together, and over these 9 days they talk about their different experiences of being black in the UK. So each person has a different story to share. Then additionally, the producers brought in external people to kind of like contribute to the overall discussion. And in this clip, discrimination in the workplace, this is an individual who the producers brought in, and you'll see this clip in a second. Right, so before we watch the clip, let's hear from this video sponsor. This program is sponsored by my book, Whiteboard, Black Pieces, Race in the West. What does it mean to be black in the Western world? To find out, click the Amazon link in the description down below. Right, and we are back, so we're going to play the clip now.
All black everything, and do you know what? I understand the argument, and I understand he wants to do that for the betterment of black people, but I just think it could be counterproductive as a whole.
Though Kehinde is calling time on white institutions, Lynn May is convinced there's a way to change them from within.
I think more people need to grab the bull by the horns and say, listen, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm going to take my company down. What companies do not like to happen is being hit in the pocket.
In 2020, the number of people taking race discrimination cases to tribunal almost doubled. And now someone who won one of the biggest compensation payments in the country is dropping in.
When our special guest arrives, I would love to exchange notes.
In this day and age, no one should be put through what I have. The words of 59-year-old Anne Giwa Amu after winning almost £400,000 compensation for race and age discrimination. It happened at the Department for Work and Pensions in Caerphilly.
Hello.
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 Now Anne is here to tell the story behind the headlines.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah.
When Anne decided to take the Department of Work and Pensions to court, it was not an easy decision.
It was a very difficult situation, and it was extremely distressing for me.
The judge said she was the victim of deliberate and intended harassment by staff.
During the first few weeks of a new job, Anne suffered a number of incidents of racial harassment.
I was the only person who was not white, and I found that one trainee in particular was homing in on my difference. She was constantly harassing. She seemed to feel the need to share with me that there was a lot of hostility in the area towards people of colour. And she said someone had stolen something from the fridge. She said immediately it was Anne, you know.
In front of everyone?
In front of everyone. It was a real shock. One of the boys, he touched me inappropriately behind. Oh. I made a complaint. Instead of that, the training officer spoke to the group the following morning. So the other members of the group now started mobbing me as well.
Bullying, really?
It was bullying, yeah, on racial grounds. I did suffer from depression as a result, and it was long term, and I didn't know, how to cope with it. I went to my doctor, the GP, and he put me on stress leave.
When did you say enough was enough?
When you're in a situation where you need the employment to survive, there isn't a position where you say enough is enough. It's a matter of when you're pushed out. And when I was sacked, it wasn't that I had said.
Sacked?
Yes, I was sacked. I was dismissed for not attending. So yes, I was pushed out of my employment. I had to represent myself at the main hearing because I couldn't afford a barrister.
When I think about that kind of racism and the racism that she described, I would normally associate it with a little bit more in the past. I've never been treated like that before. How did you feel when you heard that you'd actually won?
Relieved, very relieved. Nobody should be put through what I've been through and what I know other people are going through right now.
Do you feel like you were treated fairly? Do you feel like the payment was sufficient?
If I go to apply for a job, they're going to ask, well, why did you leave your employment? And I'm going to say, well, I was dismissed and I took them to the employment tribunal. You know, I'm not even going to get onto the shortlist.
Would you do it all over again if you had to?
No.
At least you're honest.
I know, also it was really stressful.
It's extremely stressful. Yeah, it's extremely stressful.
What else can we do to stop these things from happening?
There's got to be some sort of quota system. In my view, there's been positive discrimination in favour of white people for generations. All the leaders, you know, majority white. The managers are white, and they're bringing in their white relatives and their white, you know, children, and their white friends, and we are being completely excluded. If we're going to redress the divide, I think, you know, positive discrimination in favour of people of colour is absolutely essential.
I have a quote from my book, Whiteboard, Black Pieces, Race in the West, and it is this: racism isn't dead, that little turd is still alive and kicking. And I think this clip supports that statement. So let's talk about it. So obviously, for Anne, of course, the whole situation was incredibly stressful for her. She suffered racial harassment. There was elements of embarrassment for her as well. In particular, the incident where a colleague came out and was like, "Oh, Anne stole so-and-so's food," which of course wasn't true. Then there was the incident where someone touched her inappropriately from behind, and the way in which that incident was dealt with was incredibly inappropriate. So for incident like that, you pull the individual who committed the act to one side, and the HR should have talked to that person instead of going to the whole office and sharing that. The whole office didn't need to know. I've known people who have had issue with HR, shoddy HR. This was an example of shoddy HR. Then of course there was the overall effects like this was having on Anne. So there was depression, so she had to take time away from work. Then in the end she was pushed out, she was sacked, which again wasn't fair, inappropriate. I thought this was really interesting. Anne was talking about as a result of going to the tribunal, that when she now goes to apply for jobs and the question comes up, so why did you leave your last job? Oh, I left my last job because I took my ex-employer to an employment tribunal. She's then seen as a liability by a potential employer, because that employer is now thinking, oh, if there are like incidents at work here, will we get taken to court? Will this tarnish our company and whatnot? Even though she won, she kind of lost. I'll repeat that. Even though she won, she kind of lost. Interesting. Towards the end, where she said she wouldn't do it again. She wouldn't go through the whole process of doing the whole tribunal. And we'll just finish off with this. So because she represented herself, she couldn't afford to get a barrister for her. She kept the whole payment. We weren't given an exact number, but we were told that it was around £400,000. So all in all, racism is still a thing in the United Kingdom. No matter what people try to tell you, racism is still around. And it is insidious, and it is harmful, and it is hurtful, and it affects people's lives. It affects their mental health. It affects their ability to work. So let me know your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Take care.